Hello, this is Cassandra Williams from Educational Innovation 360. And what we're going to do is go over the 6 top ways that your school can maintain high behavior expectations for your students. And so this is something I really want to dive into because many teachers struggle with supporting their classroom with these effective strategies. So I want to make sure I gave you 6 that could support you today. All right, this is number 6. Say it with me. Number 6. Yes, providing specific, concrete, sequential, and observable behaviors of directions, right? And so what does this look like? This looks like hand gestures, hand movements, written on the board, as well as repeating to make sure they understood, right? And so this is Mr. John. Say hi, Mr. John. Hi, Mr. John. Mr. John's going to tell you what you have to do in the class today. And number 1, you're going to get out your pencil. What are you going to do? Get out your pencil. Number 2, get out your piece of paper. What are you going to do? Number 2, get out your piece of paper. And number 3, when you're done, you're going to turn it in. What are you going to do? Turn it in. So what is number 1, boys and girls? Number 1 is get out your, you're right, get out your pencil. Number 2 is what? Yes, take out your piece of paper. And when you're done, what are you going to do? Turn it in. And who can in the classroom repeat what I just said? Exactly. And then some of the scaffoldings that teachers give are the hand movements, or with a student that is already fluent in the directions, in the sequential directions, they can remove the scaffolds with the hand gestures. The second thing a teacher does is write it on the board. So what do you do if you cannot remember what to do? You look on the board, right? And so those are some ways. I've even seen a teacher make a student job as the leader or the liaison or the explanator or something to where that student is I know what to do when the directions are forgotten, right? And so the student is not coming up to my desk, interrupting the teacher because the student already has the hand movements, the board, as well as the other student for support, and last but not least, they have me. So the teacher is already given so many rules, directions, and procedures, so there's really no need to ask the teacher. All right, number 5, we're on number 5, addressing negative and off-task behavior, right? How do we do it immediately so the student doesn't disrupt the whole class, right? Everything is thrown off. So what are some things that you do in the classroom? Some of the things that I've observed and I've seen is proximity. So teachers walking around the classroom by a student that may be disrupting, or they have something to gather the class, like class, yes, right? Or there's just some other tips and techniques that they could do, but it always boils down to knowing the student, right? Knowing their triggers, knowing some things that you could do to support the class, redirecting behavior, right? Calling on another student, like, oh, I love how John is tracking me. His eyes are laser eyes on me, and he's ready for what I have to listen to. And then pulling the students together so they can refocus. And these are some ways that you can really engage students, redirecting the behavior, positive framing. Those are a couple of things that we do to redirect the behavior and to support students in ongoing learning in the classroom. All right, now we're on number 4. Yes, number 4 is very important, right? Issuing appropriate consequences that relate to the same behavior and doing it without hesitation, right? And being that successful support in your students and them knowing the consequences of their behavior, right? And so I say this all the time. Many teachers struggle with the consistency of it and just being able to know the student enough to where you can have an appropriate action because of the student's behavior intent. So one of the things I've noticed lately is taking students' recess away from them. And I remember watching an observation. It was a young class. The boy had to be about 7. It was a second grade classroom. And the teacher took away his recess. And somehow the student had a struggle at this very same time, and the teacher would immediately take us away his recess. And we had a discussion and we talked about what are some other things that we could do to support his behavior in the classroom so he can enjoy his recess, because it was consistently his recess was taken away. Number 3, using voice, your presence to maintain authority, right? And conveying that ongoing caring. I'm doing this because I care. I love my students, right? And so when I say using your voice, portraying your voice so everybody can hear it, even the students in the back of the room, call and response. That's very good for your voice call. And then standing square straight up, no slouching. Posture is very important, especially when you're trying to convey a message. And just making sure you genuinely care for the student and saying it in a positive way so the students respond right away. And so that's some ways that you can support your students in the classroom with high expectations. Relationships is so big. Number 2, building relationships and investing in students and knowing individual students and building that relationship is so key. When you're teaching, you want to be able to support the students, and you want to know a little bit about their students. You want to know a little bit about them. It's personal. And forming relationship is the bulk of teaching. And I go back and say, I've never or rarely learned from a teacher that I hate, right? You want your students to know that you genuinely care. You want to ask questions. You want to support them in other areas besides for academics. That's very key. I remember it was a student in the classroom. I was observing a teacher, and the teacher said, Sarah, if you don't sit down, I'm going to call your mother, right? And so the teacher, not knowing the whole student, really didn't realize that Sarah really doesn't live with her mom. She lives with her grandma. And that are crucial moments where you could really miss the boat. And knowing the whole student is so important, knowing the individual and building that relationship, building that bond to where there's trust and there's an ongoing connection outside of the classroom besides for the academics. Last but not least, we made it to number 1. Number 1 is developing interest in students' well-being and through your engagements. What are you doing? Are you going to birthday parties? Are they seeing you at the grocery store? Are they seeing you outside of the academic setting? Are they seeing you're personal in nature? I remember it was one student that enjoyed playing guitar, and the teacher enjoyed playing guitar. So one day after school, the teacher, during dismissal, played his guitar. And it was such an invigorating moment for that teacher, but for the student that really admired the teacher, that really wanted to be like the teacher, that really enjoyed the music and just sat there. And then eventually the student asked, could he play guitar with the teacher? And so, a long story short, the teacher actually did an extracurricular activity from 3 to 5 and taught a group of students basic guitar, music using the guitar. So just how do students know you? How are you connecting outside of academics? And what do you bring to the table to where students can love you all over again? That was the end. That was 6. We did 6. Let's do a recap. All right. Concrete, providing specific concrete directions for behavior, right? Hand movements, gesture, it goes into their short-term memory and stores in their long-term memory. Then it's on the board for print. So now they know, they understand. And sometimes it's a student helper that helps other students, clarify misconceptions from the teacher. Number 5, addressing off task with proximity, walking around the room. I remember it was a student that struggled being called on right away. So what the teacher would do was go and create that scaffold, would tap on them and say, you're going to read next, get ready. And so would walk around the room. So that proximity supports disruptive behavior, and that continues with that supportive cycle. Next is issuing consequences. Make sure your consequences align with the concern that you have in the classroom, and make sure students know the expectations of behavior. The next one, using voice. Make sure your voice projects. Use it for your authority. Stand up, be proud, and just make sure you support the kids in that nature. Investing in time, knowledge, and individual, and forming that bond. That relationship is so key. Learn to bond with your students over things outside of academia. And developing, last but not least, developing an active interest in students. Care. What did you do this weekend? How was that soccer game you were in? Did you win? Did you score any goals? How's your mother doing? You told me last week she is sick. Is she okay? Is there something I could do? Maybe I could bring some soup over to the house. I remember bringing soup to the house of a student. She was my parent. She was my room parent and second language parent. I loved her to death. She would bring food. She would feed me. I actually gained a lot of weight when I was teaching first grade. But there was a time she couldn't come in. She was sick. I showed up at the house and I brought her some soup. And you should have saw the look on the student's face as well as the parent. You know, being that genuine person that really cares, doing something outside of my physical job. So I hope that was helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you tune in to Patreon, where I'm going to put this for educationalinnovation.com. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.